This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
Hey, White Flag. This is White Flag with Joe Walsh, former Congressman Joe Walsh. Every week I try to sit down with somebody who doesn't necessarily think like I do on an issue, big or small. I'm a huge fan of Matthew Dowd. If you follow politics and you follow kind of the state and the soul of our country right now, by the way, you really ought to be following Matt Dowd. Follow him on Twitter, at Matthew J. Dowd. Again, at Matthew J. Dowd. Longtime political consultant, strategist, analyst, worked on a lot of campaigns, was a Republican for ages, became a Democrat a couple years ago. Matt, you can correct me on that. You can see Matthew Dowd on MSNBC often. And he is one of the most, if not the most principled, what I would call NeverTrumpers around. Dr. Dowd, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Always great to be with you.
I want to start with this, and I'm just going to pose the question. I'm going to pose it as if I think you and I disagree on this, but I'm just going to present it, and then I want you to begin our conversation. You and I are both committed NeverTrumpers. We do not want that man anywhere near the White House again. That is a given. My question, Matt, is the issue maybe between us is, with that as the context, how do we handle what's going on with Joe Biden? And specifically, how do we, people like you and I, who have platforms, are NeverTrumpers, are in the news, are on TV. Biden had a historically bad debate. Joe Biden is the nominee, may not be the nominee, everything that's been going on. What I'm curious about is, how do people like you and I in this space handle this issue? What I have done, Matt, and then jump, I have, as a NeverTrumper, I have said, I'll vote for Biden, I'll vote for whoever the Democratic nominee is, but I've been public the last week in that, Joe Biden, I love you, but pass the torch to Kamala Harris. My feeling is you would take a different approach. Again, for people like us who are in the public eye as NeverTrumpers. Where are you on this whole thing?
So, I will vote for whoever's opposing Donald Trump that has a legitimate shot at winning, not a third party or something that doesn't. So whoever the Democrats have as the top of the ticket as of today, that's Joe Biden. Whoever it is, I will vote for, because Trump is the anathema to our country.
Agreed.
I'm of the belief that there's nothing serves the moment well. This is my opinion, and I obviously know there's differences, to publicly demand Joe Biden step down or step back if it has no actually influence on the process in a couple of ways. Anybody that actually could influence Joe Biden, which I believe the group of people that could actually influence Joe Biden is very small. It's probably his family, mainly Jill. Barack Obama could probably influence it. Maybe Bill Clinton, but I don't know. But it's so small. And if you have that influence, you're probably not saying it publicly because you're trying to privately do it. All of us in the punditocracy, I think we're saying it, but it's not going to influence that process, in my view. And actually, it could actually have a negative effect on the process, because I think you say it and people get more, dug down in their position, and all of that stuff happens. So that's me. I just think he needs the grace and space to make a decision on this. He's going to make the decision. It's only him that's going to make that decision. And after that, then there's obviously the process of what happens after that. So I think he needs the grace and space. The other part of this is, I think so many folks saying he needs to publicly leave, who have no influence on actually it happening, is it's probably not helpful in defeating Trump by saying it. And I'm not one that disagrees with telling the truth and all that. But sometimes the best moments call for silence, not necessarily shouting out from the rooftops what somebody believes need to happen.
So Matthew, your position would be, as a member of the kind of never-Trumper, I'm going to put you and I together, the never-Trumper, I like the way you said that, punditocracy. Those of us never-Trumper pundits, your position would be, with what's going on right now, we should just best stay quiet and let it play out.
Well, that's and I say I say it as my opinion, because I know you and all the others that are doing that in this world. Our intentions are good.
Yeah,
want the same thing that I and all Democrats want. All of that good. Have the same thoughts and vision for our country in an aftermath of Donald Trump. Having that done. And so I don't question people's intentions or all that. I just think from a standpoint of both personally affecting Joe Biden and in the effort to remove Donald Trump, I don't think it helps.
Go back to, you made an interesting point, Matt Dowd. You're right. I've been out there speaking out respectfully. Joe Biden, love you, step down. I have zero influence over Joe Biden. That's absolutely true. Tell me if you buy this, though. If there are voices like ours out there respectfully saying, sir, I'll support you if you're the nominee, Joe, but step down. If there are voices like that out there, Matt, does that influence the influencers?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't. Having been through the process of been in politics on both sides of the aisle and all that, and who says what, and what actually has influence over people or over people who have influence over, I don't think it does. I just think it gives. I think any time there's divisiveness in a movement opposing Donald Trump benefits Donald Trump. Anytime there's consternation, I think Donald Trump is loving this right now. Though I think he only loves it up to the point. If Joe Biden did step back, I don't think he's loving it at that point, in my view. If Joe Biden was to make that decision, I think Donald Trump has no idea what to do in that scenario, because I think he's geared up everything towards one. But I think all of the consternation and the division and all that is where Donald Trump flowers. And he loves this division right now. And that, to me, is problematic for defeating him. Matt,
I think that's your strongest take, because I can't disagree with that. This has presented divisiveness in our coalition, public divisiveness, and that I do believe that helps Trump. But I guess, how do we, I'm sure you've been tempted to say something on Twitter or on TV or publicly, but you've probably held back because, again, it's your belief that we need to give Biden space. Are you saying, Matt, we should show unity, all of us behind Biden publicly until he makes his decision?
Well, we're a democracy, and I think various opinions are good. Yeah. And disagreement is not necessarily, it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing in the course of that. So I'm not one of these ones like shut up and get in line. I mean, I think that's the wrong. And I know there's been a whole reaction on social media.
Yes.
And the thing about shut up, why are you doing this? And then, of course, they start questioning your intentions or others' intentions. Like, you're just doing this to stir up something and you're going to make money off of it. I mean, it's just this crazy stuff that goes on when for years, I mean, the former Republicans who've stood up to Trump have taken the most courageous and lost the most in this process. And I don't know if Democrats completely understand that, or some Democrats understand that, because of you're left with no party. Yeah. And then even though you're going to support the Democrats in this election and do all of that, you're actually not completely welcomed with open arms, because the moment you disagree on something, you're immediately questioned, which I think is I've never understood this idea of building a team and then you start doing a test of the team members. start doing a
Yeah.
test of the team members.
By the way, Matt, when did you formally become a Democrat?
So I became an independent in 2007.
Okay.
In the aftermath of all of during the Bush time, when I broke with Bush over the war and other things. And then I would say probably not until 2020, probably 2020.
Have you, because you're a good, I'd call you a good moderate conservative Democrat then. Have you been embraced completely by the party?
No, but
Yeah.
I don't, that doesn't bother me. I mean, it doesn't bother me fully. I mean, I think anytime I say anything that's like, I mean, I had a thing about student loans, and when the whole student loan thing happened, and I said something, and I had my own student loans, and I paid. I'm not saying I paid them off and all of that, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a process to help people in the student loan process. But I said a statement like, I actually think people that have a stake in the game should actually have some responsibility, even if we zero out the interest rates and do all of that. That was like, then the people came over the wall. He's not a real Democrat, because I believe that anybody that takes out a student loan ought to have at least some accountability in it.
Yeah.
But
do you, Matt, that's interesting. I've never asked you this. Do you, because you're again, and I love the loony lefties, but you're no loony lefty. I mean, do you sometimes feel not at home in that party?
I mean, I feel at home in that I believe that every one of us agrees that Donald Trump and the Republican Party. I used to think it was only Donald Trump, but now I think there's not really. Maybe there's a local Republican I'll vote for in Texas because he's running for county commissioner or something.
Right.
Who's a decent guy, and I would vote for them. I would if there was a person like that. But I think any other level of government, it only enables the problem, in my view. And so, though that sounds exceedingly partisan, it's because the Republican Party has become such a awful place. I'm in agreement on that, and I'm in agreement on a number of issues. A number of issues that they advocate for, that the Republicans. I'm agreeing common sense gun reform. You and I have had this conversation.
Yes.
Some common sense of background checks and things like that. I believe that Roe versus Wade ought to be the law of the land. I think, whether or not you argue there should be some restrictions on it, I could have that discussion. But I think Roe versus Wade. And so there's a number of issues broadly that I think I'm with the Democratic Party on it.
Well, what's interesting, Matt, you're actually a really interesting case because you're a dinosaur in that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're a good, decent political centrist. Generally, is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's. I think I try to tell people this is where I think the Trump people are so off. Is I'm the center of the country.
Yes.
So the center of the country believes that Roe versus Wade ought to be the law of the land. The center of the country believes we ought to have common sense gun reform. The center of the country believes that the very wealthy should be paying higher taxes and should have a greater stake in the game. That's the center of the country. That's not the left. That's the center.
Right. And as things are now, and even though you and I may disagree on some of those issues, but as things are now, as in the center of the country, you're a hell of a lot closer to the Democratic Party. This Republican Party ain't anywhere near the center of the country. That's
why this argument that the Democrats have gone so far left and the Republicans have gone so far right really isn't, because the Democrats are much closer to the center than the Republicans ever are.
So, Matthew Dowd, respond to this, because I've gotten a lot of shit from many folks to my left because I've been publicly asking Joe Biden to pass the torch. Though I will support him if he's the nominee. I'll run through a wall for him. Tell me if you buy this. Your former party and my former party, the Republican Party, is a cult. There ain't no way on God's green earth they would ever publicly discuss the fitness of their leader. To me, this is a sign, this transparency, this public, Joe, we love you, are you too old, blah, blah, blah. The public airing of this, to me, shows kind of the sign of a healthy party, that we're not a cult. those of us who are supporting whoever the Democratic nominee is, the fact that we're out there publicly talking about it. A, do you buy that? B, does it matter? And C, is it still helpful to Trump?
I think two things can be true simultaneously. So I think it does show the health of a party that you're willing to have disagreements with the leader of that movement and actually raise questions about it. I think that shows health. That's what the Republicans don't have. They don't have a healthy political party. They have a corrupt criminal enterprise, basically, is what they have. So that's true. Strategically, strategically, is it the right move? It can show the health of the party, but is it the right thing to do?
You are a strategist. You're a longtime political strategist. Getting this out now, I mean, having a knockdown, drag it out fight now, let's say Biden stays in, then strategically, can we just move beyond it? Does he move beyond? If he stays in, Matt, and we've had this public brawl, the anti-Trump coalition, all of us who are behind whoever the nominee is, Biden says, screw it, guys, love you, but I'm in. Can it get behind us?
It can only get behind us if by virtue of the performance of Joe Biden. I think it only is put behind us, not by anything I think we do or say or you say or do.
Yeah.
But it gets put behind us by Joe Biden not having the problem with what happened at the debate is that it confirmed a narrative, an existing narrative.
Yeah.
And whoever you believe started it or not, it is a narrative that's baked in the system. It confirmed it to millions of people. And that means that any moment that confirms it again is going to even make it harder. And so the way it gets put behind us is he does this interview, which I guess is airing tonight with George Stephanopoulos or whenever.
Now I think it's going to be aired live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he performs on the campaign trail in a vigorous, multiple manner. Then he has a good debate. So, unless all those things happen, it doesn't get put behind us.
Matt, since the debate, when you go on, you've been on MSNBC since the debate, you've been on Twitter since the debate, your public posture on this issue has generally been what? When you go on a show on MSNBC and they ask you about it, your general thing is what?
I say a couple of things. So I say first is I want to give Joe Biden the grace and space to make a decision that's in the best interest of the country and in the best interest of the White House and in the best interest of ultimately down the line the Democratic Party and what happens. Grace and space. I am not going to call for him to quit. I'm not going to do it. He needs the time to do that. That's on one hand I say that. On the other hand, I say this idea that these people are pushing back to saying there's no way you can win with a new candidate at this point. And I argue strategically that's just, I believe, wrong.
Yeah.
That if Joe Biden was given that and he decided to leave, then I think that, and I believe the party should rally behind Vice President Harris.
Yeah.
That's the only way forward. And she's on the ticket and she's there and she's a perfect representative of the party. Then I think what happens, if that happens, then the party unifies, enthusiasm increases geometrically because it's like all of a sudden young people disengage from the process, all of a sudden a new look. And I think she takes a lead over Donald Trump. So I say two things. I'm not going to call for him to leave. If he does leave, then this is what I think the party should do.
So if I'm on that set with you, Matt, and I'm the host, I'd say, love you, Matt Dowd. That's it. But do you think, Matt, that I'd ask you this question, would the party be better off if he stepped down? It sounds like that's what you're saying, Matthew Dowd.
Well, I would say I'm not going to venture there until the president has the time to do what he's going to do.
And then when I'm on that set with you and the MSNBC host asks me the same thing, and I say, I agree with everything Matt Dowd said, but I do think the party would be better off if Joe Biden stepped down and as you said, and passed the torch to Kamala Harris. When I say that, as I have on TV in the last week, and then the host turns to you and says, Matt, I know you like Joe Walsh, but boom, Was it wrong for him to say that? You would respond how?
I would say it's not wrong for him to say that because that's his opinion and that's what his view is. I just don't think it's helpful in this process to be doing that publicly while this process is going on. So that's all I would say. I don't think it's wrong. Joe's not a bad guy. He says it with good intentions. He's a smart guy. I just don't think wading into that at this moment helps the Democratic Party defeat Donald Trump.
As a strategist, Matt, what are we looking at with timing here? When, in your mind, if you're working on the Biden campaign right now, this
is about to be a really good question. I like this question. Nobody's asked me this.
Well, okay, you are on that campaign. You are the key advisor on that campaign. When do we got to shit or get off the pot?
If I were giving advice in it, I would say that from today, he's got a week, maybe 10 days at the most.
I agree. This has got to move quickly, right?
I mean, that's 2 weeks. That'll be 2.5 weeks out from the debate. That's plenty of time to assess what's going on. He'll have an opportunity to demonstrate in a numerous instances that, he can either confirm the narrative or fight against the narrative. But I think that after mid-July, I think it starts to get just weird if we're still in this never land.
Hey, Matt, tell me if you agree with this. I said a couple days ago that I think the fact that we're now 8 days removed from the debate, that Joe Biden hasn't been out there in the last 7 days taking questions, having a 2-hour press conference, taking questions unscripted, no teleprompter at a town hall, boom, 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 boom. The fact that he hasn't been out there in the past 6 or 7 days, to me, is a bigger fail than the debate. Respond to that.
Well, I think his campaign is occupied by smart people, right? So I think they know what they're doing. They understand what you're just saying now. They understand how storylines get locked in and you have to fight against them. They understand that. I don't know the answer.
Would you have wanted him out there, Matt? Again, I'm putting you back on the campaign. Would you?
Yeah, well, he did go out to Raleigh that night, which I thought went very well.
Yeah.
He took some questions, either was yesterday or the day before. He took something yesterday or the day before. Yeah, I would want him out there 2 or 3 times a day doing that. I suspect that there's a reason why that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I suspect that, I don't know this, and I don't want to start rumors. I would suspect that his cold or whatever it was worse than what we know.
Yeah.
Because I think the campaign knows he needed to do that. There was a reason he didn't.
Wow, that's interesting, actually. So, but you wouldn't go as far, obviously, as I would go in that. And others have gone. Does that then mean the fact that he hasn't been out there means he's just not capable of doing it?
No, I don't go that far because
okay.
I think people can have, be sick, be under the weather, do whatever I'm fine with that because we're human beings and all of that. I don't think that says, I mean, if you wanted to make an argument, Joe Biden has been out there more publicly than Donald Trump has for the last 9 days, which is kind of amazing, actually. Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump the only thing we've heard from is what he said from a golf cart.
Yeah.
That video from the golf cart. Yeah. That more crazy stuff from the golf cart. So I don't take that as a thing, but I do think it puts more pressure on him and them in the next few days to show something different.
And I'm not knowledgeable enough, Matt, on this topic, but people are talking about the fact that the media over the last couple of years has maybe kind of insulated and protected Biden, the coverage of Biden. Do you buy any of that?
No. I mean, they've shown Biden. They've had commentary about Biden. They've had commentary about Biden being too old since before he was elected in 2020. So I don't think that's obviously Fox News and all that. They think there's something of everybody. But the media has I think paid attention to it and asked questions. And I don't fault them for that. I fault the media for many things, but that's not one of them.
Are you surprised, Matt, like the New York Times and others in the media have kind of said, time to go?
Well, I'm surprised by the New York Times because the New York Times, it seems to take a firmer stand with Joe Biden than they do with Donald Trump.
Anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think they think maybe this is part of the problem with what happens between Biden and Trump right now is because there's an assumption Trump's crazy. So what do we need to do? Nothing's going to change it. Why could we? And at least the Democratic Party is rational. I think and I think that doesn't serve us because it automatically thinks, well, we're going to hold the Democrats more accountable because we can't hold the Republicans because they're crazy.
That's actually, Matt, that's a great point. That's been a big issue. Donald Trump is manifestly unfit to be president. You and I have 300 reasons for that. The only reason why Biden may be unfit is if he's too old. And that's all we're focused on. And it's like we've just put these 300 reasons for Trump. We don't even talk about him anymore.
And we don't hold the Republicans to the same account that we hold Democrats to, because I think people think the Democrats are rational. So if we say something to the Democrats, they'll actually give thought to it and self-reflect and maybe do something. The media doesn't, by and large, not we, but the media doesn't by and large hold the Republicans to the same account because they don't think they're rational.
Yeah. It's like that's already baked in, that we just assume the Republican Party is a cult, so they're not going to question it. And so let's just move on.
Well, it's like having two kids and one kid that you can have influence over and the other kids are like completely lost their mind. And you're like, well, I can't, what am I going to do anymore with him? He's lost his mind. So I got to have to instruct you. That's what it's like.
I'm intrigued by this notion of public divisiveness on our side and whether it's good or bad. And I'm God, Matt, I wish I had a better response because I guess I don't. Strategically, any airing of our differences on Biden, our sides, helps Trump in your mind, no matter what.
Well, I think airing of differences is good. It's strategically, like if there's an airing difference, and NeverTrumpers say, well, I believe that we should be doing X, Y, and Z on some issue, but I still support Joe Biden. That's, I think, a very good thing strategically, because I think it shows a diverse coalition of people who have different issue sets, but all support Joe Biden because of X. I think when you air differences about Joe Biden being the nominee, strategically, it isn't a good thing.
And again, I think you'd say because we both want Trump to lose. And if I felt, oh, my God, I don't think Biden anymore is the best guy to defeat him. Oh, my God, Joe Walsh, I have to say something. I have to tweet something. That's my instinct. Your objection to that is I'm not serving a purpose because you're right. I have zero influence over Biden.
I just think sometimes I think people, and I've been in this, but I've been in this obviously because you want to give your take and instant opinions. You want to tell your truth in the course of this. But sometimes I think if we just paused and say, what's going to serve the greatest purpose here in what I want to accomplish? If we pause longer to understand that, it may lead us to a different conclusion of what we say in the moment.
And I hear that and I respect that. I guess I can't get out of the thought that I'm in a business to get paid for what I think. I have to say what I think. And so to me, it's just honesty. But Matt, and this is, again, why I encourage everybody to follow you on Twitter, because in this age, by the way, that's at Matthew Dowd. In this age we live in now of instant reaction, and nobody reflects anymore. Your Twitter feed, Matt, really reflects a lot of reflection and pause and the beautiful stuff that you post every morning. By the way, what compelled you to begin a few years ago posting really lovely life kind of thoughts early in the morning?
It's an interesting question. So I think when I started, I do a daily for the last 10 or 12 years, a daily meditation practice every morning when I get up, no matter where I am.
Yeah.
No matter if I'm at home or traveling or whatever. And I do process of reading things that inspire me. I read from the Bible every day because it inspires me to think something bigger than just about my moment in time and myself. And so I read a lot of stuff and started like actually going on the web and sort of looking at things that would, go meditate in my mind. And then I thought I started posting them mainly as a message to myself. I started posting them mainly as like, here's thoughts I'm thinking, or here's quotes that inspired me. And it was mainly as like a lot of things in life, Joey, we say stuff mainly. Yeah. Sometimes we say stuff loud in order to tell ourselves, right?
Yes. Yeah. But they're wonderful, Matt.
And so then I started doing it, and then people started responding to it. Yeah. And now every morning after my meditation practice, it's a great part of my day. It's become sort of a daily sort of practice of what can I find and what can I inspire people in this moment, and what may be things that I see are apropos from the past that apply to today. So,
Matt, is it time consuming? Because every morning you come up with a number of them. And I'm thinking you're spending an hour or two finding this stuff.
I am. Yeah. It's an hour or two every morning. I'm up early as you probably are. Yeah. I get up early. I start my day. I like the sunrise.
Yes.
My energy is high in the morning and low as sun sets.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be posting them at night, but yeah, it takes an hour or two every morning.
Let's end with this. Play this out for me again. I would play out what I want to happen, but I want you to play out both possibilities and how your strategic mind thinks about this. Biden stays in. You're advising the Biden campaign. He's in until Election Day. What do they need to do? And Matt, how then be a pundit? How does that matchup then look for the next 4 months?
So they need to start with this interview he's doing, and they need to do a series of things like that. Moments in the campaign, he's taking questions from voters where the press are there. He's responding. He doesn't need to necessarily do a bunch of interviews, but I think he needs to do live moments where he's interacting, taking questions, doing all that, and that needs to happen from now or from whenever till Election Day. He needs to.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Sure.
Here comes the pundit who wants to jump and pounce in me. Okay, he does that. He says I'm in, and he does what you advise him to do. And over the course of the next month, it becomes clear, dang, he's really struggling doing this.
Well,
I think Joe, go.
Any feedback they need, I think the feedback they're going to get in the next week or 10 days, as we discussed earlier, is, I think, going to be important in the process of making this decision that he needs to make.
Okay.
I think, obviously, post-convention, it becomes moot, and they don't have any choice but to follow a strategy that they may trip over. I think the hide-the-ball strategy is not going to work, and even if that's a risk of like he's going to make a mistake or show himself. What else do you have? You don't have anything else. You can't hide the ball.
So even Matt, post convention, he's the guy. And even if they feel like he's shaky out there, they should not hide. They should not hide the ball. They got to keep him out there.
No, because I think that it only confirms the worst suspicions. And I think if you're running for president of the United States against the threat of Donald Trump, then I think your hide the ball is the worst thing you could do. And then he needs to prepare and be rested and ready for the next debate, because that's the next opportunity where millions of people will be watching. This is post-convention in this. But I'm hoping they're going to get it. I'm going to say one more thing before we go. And then this goes to this idea of polls.
Yeah.
And I said this the other day on Nicole's show on MSNBC, that there people are saying, well, he's only lost 2 or 3 points. Yeah. He's only lost 2 or 3 points. And other candidates have lost 2 or 3 points in the aftermath of bad debates, and which is true. Bush lost 4 points after that first debate first debate against John Kerry. The problem is, if you look at it only that way, and this race is trading within the margin of 5 points total.
Yeah.
And so when you lose 2 or 3 points, that's 60% of your margin.
Yeah.
when Bush was running against Kerry, the margin was 10 to 12 points.
Yeah.
So you lose 2 or 3 points in a 10 to 12 point delta. It's not as bad. You lose 2 or 3 points in a delta
Huge.
of 5. That's significant.
Yeah. That's a big deal. Then play out strategically the other scenario that he does pass the torch, and you and I agree the torch would have to be passed to Kamala. He passes the torch. If you were advising the Harris campaign against Donald Trump for the next 4 months, what should she do? How should she prosecute that case against him?
I think she is a prosecutor. I think she would do extremely well at it. I think just let her go. Just let her go and do her thing. I think if this was to happen, I think she'll pick a VP that can do the same, especially in Middle America and all that can prosecute the same. But I would just say, be the prosecutor you are and have at it.
My last question is do you still find it hard sometimes? And I respect your position on Biden, on giving him space and not speaking out now until he makes a decision. I know in that head of yours, you've got ideas and thoughts about it. Is it hard for you sometimes? Has it been difficult this past week to kind of hold your tongue? Come on, Matt. I know it's just a little bit.
I think in this world of hot takes and instant analysis, and it doesn't only happen, as you know, in politics. It happens in sports too. People quickly give they're over, it's done, it's forever.
Exactly.
I think it's hard in that there's a demands. It's hard in that it's not hard interior wise because I know it's the right thing.
Right.
It's hard because of demands of it, and you have to just fight against the demands of it.
Completely. But I've gotten the sense from you in following you over the years that you reached a real peace a few years ago to no longer be in that stupid biz of giving the hot take immediately so I can get on TV and all that. You seem to have reached a place where you are at complete peace with what you do.
Yeah, I try as best I can. There's a great acronym that I try to apply, and I don't always do it well, which is before you speak, think, THINK, which is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind?
Yeah.
I try. I don't always succeed, but I try.
Thank you, Matt Dowd. By the way, again, one more time, plug for him. Everybody follow Matt Dowd on Twitter at Matthew J. Dowd. Thank you, my friend. This has been interesting. Can't wait to see how this plays out.
You too. We're all on the same team, Joe.
Absolutely. That's the important point. Both of these two good-looking, handsome men are going to run through a wall for whoever the Democratic nominee is. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.